There is a quiet force that steals more dreams than failure ever could. It does not arrive with noise. It does not appear as a dramatic disaster. Instead, it slips into life slowly and almost invisibly. Most people never notice it until years have passed and something inside them begins to whisper that they have become less than they once imagined. This silent force is not a lack of intelligence. It is not a lack of opportunity. It is not even the presence of fear. The real danger is living without a clear purpose. When a person moves through life without deciding who they want to become or what they want to build, their days begin to drift. One small delay turns into another. One small compromise turns into a habit. Over time, that habit becomes a direction, and that direction quietly leads a person away from their true potential. The greatest tragedy in life is not falling short after trying with courage. The greatest tragedy is never truly deciding what your life is meant to stand for. The question is simple but powerful. Are you directing your life with intention, or are you slowly drifting away from the person you were meant to become? Most people believe the greatest enemy of success is failure. They think failure destroys dreams and ends possibilities. But the truth is very different. Failure is often a teacher. Failure forces people to grow stronger and wiser. The real enemy of success is far quieter and far more dangerous because it does not look like an enemy at all. It is the habit of drifting through life without a clear decision about who you want to become. Drifting begins in small and almost harmless ways. A person wakes up in the morning without a clear direction for the day. They move from one task to another without intention. They allow distractions to fill the empty space where purpose should exist. At first it seems normal. Everyone delays a task now and then. Everyone relaxes and tells themselves they will start tomorrow. But drifting grows quietly through repetition. One postponed decision becomes another. One distraction becomes a daily routine. Over time, a person stops asking important questions about their life. They stop asking what they truly want to achieve. They stop asking whether their current path leads anywhere meaningful. Instead, they simply follow whatever appears in front of them. Work fills the hours, but not the spirit. Entertainment fills the evenings, but not the mind. Days pass and weeks pass, yet nothing truly moves forward. The danger of drifting is that it feels comfortable. It does not create immediate pain. A person can drift for years while still believing everything is fine. They go to work, they pay their bills, they talk about their dreams, but deep inside, something begins to fade. The sharp sense of purpose that once existed slowly weakens. The excitement about the future becomes dull. What once felt possible begins to feel distant. Many talented people fall into this trap. Intelligence does not protect a person from drifting. Opportunity does not protect a person from drifting. Even ambition alone cannot protect someone if it is not supported by discipline and direction. Some of the most capable individuals in the world never achieve their potential simply because they never make a clear decision about their path. Drifting also thrives in a world filled with endless distractions. Modern life constantly pulls attention in many directions. Notifications appear every minute. Social media competes for attention. News cycles fill the mind with noise. Without a strong sense of purpose, a person becomes vulnerable to every new distraction. Their attention moves wherever the world pushes it. A mind without direction becomes reactive instead of intentional. Instead of choosing actions based on long-term goals, a drifting mind reacts to emotions and impulses. When motivation feels high, a person works for a while. When motivation disappears, the effort disappears with it. This cycle slowly builds a life that lacks consistency and progress. Another hidden aspect of drifting is the habit of waiting. Many people believe that someday they will finally get serious about their goals. They believe that the right moment will arrive when they suddenly feel ready. They tell themselves they will begin when circumstances improve or when confidence appears, but drifting disguises itself through this waiting. It convinces people that delay is harmless. Years pass while people wait for clarity. Years pass while they search for perfect conditions. Eventually they look back and realize that the time they expected to use later has already been spent. The tragedy of drifting is not that it destroys life instantly. The tragedy is that it slowly replaces a life of intention with a life of reaction. It transforms a person who could have built something meaningful into someone who simply moves through time without shaping it. That is why drifting is the hidden enemy. It does not attack loudly. It whispers. It suggests that comfort is enough. It convinces people that small compromises do not matter. And before they realize it, those compromises quietly shape their destiny. Recognizing drifting is the first step toward defeating it. Only when a person sees this silent enemy clearly can they begin to take control of their direction again. To understand why drifting happens, we must first understand how the human mind naturally works. The mind is powerful, but it is also highly responsive to influence. If it is not guided with intention, it will not remain empty. Instead, it will be filled by whatever thoughts, emotions, and distractions happen to appear. This is why direction is so important. A mind without direction becomes vulnerable to every passing influence. Human beings are naturally drawn toward comfort and away from discomfort. This tendency once helped our ancestors survive, but in the modern world it often works against long-term success. The brain prefers immediate rewards instead of long-term effort. It chooses the activity that feels easier right now rather than the action that may bring greater rewards in the future. Because of this tendency, drifting often feels natural while discipline feels difficult. When a person does not clearly define what they want, their mind begins to operate on impulse. One moment it follows curiosity, another moment it follows distraction. A person might start the day with good intentions, but without a clear objective, the mind quickly begins to wander. It becomes attracted to entertainment, notifications, conversations, or small tasks that require little effort. Each of these distractions seems harmless on its own, but together they slowly redirect attention away from meaningful progress. Another powerful psychological force behind drifting is uncertainty. When a person does not know exactly what they want or how to achieve it, the mind often chooses avoidance. The brain tries to protect itself from the discomfort of uncertainty by delaying decisions. Instead of confronting difficult choices, the mind searches for easier alternatives. This delay creates temporary relief, but it also prevents growth. Fear also plays a hidden role in drifting. Many people are afraid of making the wrong decision, so they make no decision at all. They tell themselves they are waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan, but perfection rarely arrives. In reality, this hesitation slowly becomes a habit. The mind becomes comfortable with postponement, and the longer a person delays action, the more difficult it becomes to start. The influence of environment is another powerful psychological factor. Human beings are deeply social creatures. The attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of people around us have a strong effect on how we think. If someone spends most of their time around individuals who complain, avoid responsibility, or accept mediocrity, those patterns gradually become normal. The mind adapts to the standards it observes every day. Over time, the environment shapes expectations. When people around you accept average results, your own ambitions begin to shrink. The mind adjusts to the level of effort it sees in others. Without realizing it, a person begins to think smaller and aim lower. This is one reason drifting spreads easily within groups of people who lack clear goals. Emotions also influence the mind more than most people realize. Many individuals allow their emotions to determine their actions. When they feel motivated, they work with enthusiasm. When they feel tired, discouraged, or uncertain, they stop. This pattern creates inconsistency. Success, however, is rarely built on temporary emotion. It is built on repeated actions performed, regardless of how a person feels in the moment. Drifting becomes stronger when emotional control is weak. Frustration can cause someone to give up too early. Doubt can convince someone that effort is pointless. Laziness can make rest feel more attractive than progress. Without conscious discipline, the mind follows whichever emotion happens to be strongest in that moment. Another psychological mechanism behind drifting is gradual normalization. Small compromises appear insignificant when they first happen. Skipping one day of effort seems harmless. Delaying one decision feels reasonable. But the mind quickly adapts to new patterns. What was once an exception becomes routine. As routine changes, behavior changes as well. Eventually, drifting becomes an identity. A person begins to see themselves as someone who procrastinates, someone who never finishes projects, someone who always waits for motivation. This identity reinforces the behavior and the cycle continues. Understanding these psychological forces is essential because drifting is not simply a matter of laziness. It is the result of several powerful tendencies working together. The brain seeks comfort. The mind avoids uncertainty. Emotions influence decisions. Environment shapes expectations. Small compromises slowly become habits. But the same mind that drifts can also be directed. When a person becomes aware of these psychological patterns, they gain the ability to interrupt them. Awareness creates the possibility of choice. Instead of reacting automatically, a person can begin to act intentionally. And that is the moment when drifting begins to lose its power. The consequences of drifting rarely appear suddenly. Life does not collapse overnight because someone lacks direction. Instead, the damage happens slowly and quietly. At first, the effects are almost invisible. A person simply postpones a few decisions. They delay a few important actions. They allow distractions to take the place of meaningful work. Nothing seems catastrophic in the moment. Yet over time, these small delays begin to shape the course of an entire life. One of the first consequences of drifting is the loss of clarity. When a person lives without a clear purpose, their mind becomes scattered. Their attention moves from one thing to another without focus. They begin many tasks but finish very few. Ideas appear exciting at first but quickly lose their energy. Without a defined direction, effort becomes fragmented and progress becomes inconsistent. This lack of clarity slowly weakens ambition. Another consequence is the erosion of confidence. Confidence is not something that appears magically. It grows from repeated action and achievement. When people fail to act on their goals, they slowly lose trust in themselves. Each postponed decision sends a quiet message to the mind that commitment is optional. Each abandoned plan teaches the brain that effort may not lead anywhere meaningful. Over time, this pattern creates doubt. A person begins to question their own ability to follow through. Drifting also weakens discipline. Discipline is built through daily choices that move a person toward their goals. But when goals are unclear, discipline becomes difficult to maintain. Without a destination, there is no reason to endure discomfort. The mind begins to choose convenience instead of progress. Small acts of laziness become easier to justify. Comfort slowly replaces challenge, and the habit of effort fades. As discipline weakens, opportunity begins to disappear. Opportunities rarely remain open forever. They appear for a moment and then move on. A drifting mind often fails to recognize these moments because it is distracted or uncertain. Even when an opportunity is visible, hesitation prevents action. Someone who lacks direction often waits too long before making a move. By the time they decide to act, the moment has already passed. Another powerful consequence of drifting is the gradual shrinking of potential. Every person begins life with possibilities. Talent, curiosity, imagination, and energy exist in different forms within everyone. But these qualities require direction in order to grow. When they are left without guidance, they slowly fade. A person who once dreamed of building something meaningful may eventually stop dreaming altogether. Regret is one of the most painful outcomes of drifting. Unlike failure, regret often appears much later in life. A person may spend years believing they still have time to pursue their ambitions. They believe they will start tomorrow, or next year, or when circumstances improve. But time moves quietly and consistently forward. Eventually, a moment arrives when someone looks back and realizes that the years they expected to use later have already passed. This realization can be deeply unsettling. It forces a person to confront the gap between who they are and who they once hoped to become. The dreams that once felt alive begin to feel distant. The possibilities that once seemed open now appear limited. Many people describe this moment as waking up suddenly to see the consequences of many years of drifting. Drifting also affects relationships and influence. A person without direction often struggles to inspire confidence in others. Leadership grows from clarity and commitment. When someone constantly hesitates or changes direction, it becomes difficult for others to trust their vision. As a result, opportunities for collaboration and leadership may disappear. Another long-term consequence is the loss of inner meaning. Human beings naturally seek purpose. They want to believe their actions contribute to something valuable. When life lacks direction, this sense of meaning slowly weakens. Days begin to feel repetitive and empty. Activities may fill time, but they do not create fulfillment. Over time, a person may feel restless or dissatisfied without understanding why. Drifting can also create a cycle of comparison. When individuals see others progressing toward clear goals, they may begin to feel behind. Instead of using that feeling as motivation, they sometimes respond with frustration or envy. This emotional response further weakens their willingness to act. Instead of focusing on their own path, they become distracted by the achievements of others. Perhaps the most serious consequence of drifting is that it replaces deliberate living with passive existence. Life continues moving forward regardless of whether a person actively shapes it. Each day presents opportunities to learn, build, create, and improve, but drifting causes these opportunities to pass unnoticed. Time continues to move, yet nothing meaningful is constructed from it. Years later, the difference between purposeful living and drifting becomes very clear. One path leads to growth, experience, and contribution. The other leads to the quiet realization that potential was never fully used. This is why drifting is so dangerous. It does not appear as an obvious enemy. It does not destroy ambition with a single dramatic event. Instead, it slowly steals energy, clarity, discipline, and opportunity until a person wakes up to discover that the life they imagined was never fully pursued. The solution to drifting does not begin with motivation. Motivation is temporary and unreliable. Some days motivation feels strong and inspiring, but other days it disappears without warning. If a person depends only on motivation, they will always struggle to maintain consistent progress. The true solution begins with something deeper and more stable than emotion. It begins with purpose. Purpose gives direction to the human mind. Without a purpose, the mind wanders and reacts to whatever appears in front of it. But when a person clearly decides what they want their life to represent, something powerful begins to happen. Their attention becomes focused. Their actions begin to align with their intentions. Energy that was once scattered in many directions becomes concentrated toward one meaningful path. The first step in overcoming drifting is therefore a clear decision. A person must decide what kind of life they intend to build. This decision does not require perfect knowledge about the future. It requires commitment. It requires the willingness to choose a direction and move toward it with determination. Clarity of purpose transforms the way the mind operates. When a person knows where they are going, every opportunity and every challenge begins to look different. Decisions become easier because they can be measured against a clear standard. Instead of asking what feels comfortable in the moment, a purposeful person asks whether an action moves them closer to their chosen destination. Purpose also gives meaning to effort. Many people struggle with discipline because they do not understand why their effort matters. Hard work without meaning feels exhausting, but effort connected to purpose feels different. When a person believes their actions contribute to something valuable, the same work becomes energizing rather than draining. Another important element of the philosophical solution is personal responsibility. Drifting often grows stronger when people believe their circumstances control their destiny. They may blame the economy, their environment, their past experiences, or the actions of other people. While external circumstances certainly influence life, they do not determine the direction of a determined mind. Accepting responsibility changes the way a person approaches challenges. Instead of asking why life is unfair, a responsible person asks what action they can take next. This shift in perspective restores a sense of control. It reminds the mind that progress is still possible even when circumstances are difficult. Purpose alone, however, is not enough. A clear intention must be supported by disciplined thinking. The mind must be trained to return to its purpose whenever distraction appears. Distractions are inevitable. Doubt will appear from time to time. Fear will occasionally whisper that effort may fail. Discipline teaches the mind to acknowledge these thoughts without surrendering to them. One powerful practice is the habit of daily reflection. When a person regularly examines their actions, they become more aware of whether their behavior aligns with their purpose. Each day becomes an opportunity to ask a simple question. Did my actions today move me closer to the life I want to build? This question strengthens awareness and encourages continuous improvement. Another philosophical principle that counters drifting is the idea of deliberate living. Deliberate living means treating time as a valuable resource instead of something that can be wasted without consequence. Every person receives the same 24 hours in a day. Yet the way those hours are used determines the direction of a life. A deliberate individual plans how their time will be invested. They choose activities that support growth, learning, creativity, and contribution. This does not mean life must become rigid or joyless. Rest and enjoyment remain important, but even moments of relaxation are chosen intentionally rather than becoming endless distractions. Purpose also changes the way a person responds to setbacks. Failure is no longer seen as a final defeat. Instead, it becomes information. Each mistake reveals something that can be improved. Each obstacle becomes an opportunity to strengthen resilience. Purposeful individuals continue moving forward even when progress is slower than expected because their commitment is larger than temporary frustration. The philosophical solution to drifting also encourages long-term thinking. A person who lives with purpose understands that meaningful achievements require patience. Growth rarely happens overnight. Skills take time to develop. Projects require persistence. By focusing on long-term direction instead of short-term discomfort, a purposeful person remains steady even when immediate results are not visible. Another important aspect of this philosophy is the belief that every individual possesses untapped potential. Human beings are capable of learning, adapting, and improving throughout their entire lives. Purpose awakens this potential because it provides a reason to grow. Without purpose, many abilities remain unused simply because there is no clear direction for them. Finally, purpose inspires contribution. When individuals live with intention, they often begin to think beyond their personal success. They ask how their work can improve the lives of others. Contribution adds a deeper layer of meaning to effort because it connects personal growth with the well-being of the wider world. In the end, the philosophical solution to drifting is not complicated, but it requires commitment. Decide the direction of your life. Accept responsibility for your actions. Discipline your thoughts. Use your time deliberately. Continue learning from every experience and remain patient with the process of growth. When these principles guide a person's thinking, drifting loses its influence. The mind gains direction. Effort gains meaning. And life begins to move with intention instead of uncertainty. Purpose gives direction to life, but action is what transforms purpose into reality. Many people spend years thinking about what they want to achieve, yet their lives remain unchanged because thought alone does not create results. Ideas are powerful, but only when they are followed by movement. Action is the bridge between intention and achievement. One of the most important truths about success is that clarity often comes after action, not before it. Many individuals believe they must fully understand every step before they begin. They wait for the perfect plan or the perfect moment, but life rarely works this way. The path becomes visible only after a person begins moving. Action creates experience, and experience reveals direction. When a person takes action, even small action, the mind begins to change. Movement sends a signal to the brain that progress is possible. This signal creates momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. Once momentum begins, it becomes easier to continue moving forward. Tasks that once felt intimidating begin to feel manageable because progress is already in motion. Action also builds confidence. Confidence does not come from thinking about success. It comes from doing difficult things and discovering that you are capable of handling them. Every completed action strengthens the belief that progress is possible. Each step forward becomes evidence that effort leads somewhere meaningful. Without action, however, the opposite happens. When a person constantly delays their goals, the mind slowly begins to doubt itself. Plans remain unfinished. Ideas remain unrealized. Over time, a person may start believing they lack the ability to follow through. This belief weakens motivation and makes future action even more difficult. Another reason action is powerful is that it breaks the cycle of fear. Fear often grows larger when it exists only in imagination. When people think about risks without taking steps forward, their minds begin to exaggerate the possible negative outcomes. But when action begins, fear starts to shrink. Real-world experience replaces imagined scenarios. The person realizes that challenges are often smaller than they first appeared. Action also creates learning. No plan is perfect from the beginning. Mistakes and unexpected obstacles are natural parts of growth. When a person acts, they gather information about what works and what does not. Each attempt provides feedback that improves the next decision. This process of trial and adjustment gradually leads to better strategies and stronger results. People who achieve meaningful success understand this principle deeply. They do not wait for certainty before they begin. Instead, they begin and allow the process of action to teach them what they need to know. They recognize that waiting for perfect conditions is often another form of drifting. Small actions are especially important. Many people imagine that progress requires dramatic changes or massive efforts. In reality, consistent small actions often produce the greatest results over time. A single focused hour of work each day can lead to significant improvement when repeated across months and years. The power of action grows through repetition. Consistency is therefore more valuable than intensity. A person who works steadily toward their purpose builds stronger momentum than someone who relies on occasional bursts of motivation. Daily action trains the mind to associate effort with progress. This habit strengthens discipline and reduces the temptation to drift. Another benefit of action is that it clarifies priorities. When a person begins moving toward a goal, they quickly discover which activities truly matter and which ones waste time. Action exposes distractions and reveals where attention should be directed. This clarity helps refine purpose and sharpen focus. Action also influences the environment around a person. When others see consistent effort, they begin to respond differently. Opportunities often appear when people demonstrate commitment through their behavior. Collaboration, partnerships, and support frequently arise when others recognize genuine dedication. Perhaps most importantly, action transforms identity. The way a person sees themselves is shaped by what they repeatedly do. Someone who consistently takes action begins to see themselves as disciplined, capable, and determined. This identity strengthens future behavior because the mind naturally tries to act in ways that match its self-image. The opposite is also true. A person who repeatedly delays action may begin to view themselves as someone who never finishes what they start. This identity reinforces procrastination and hesitation. That is why the first actions toward a goal are so powerful. They begin to reshape how a person sees themselves. Taking action does not mean ignoring fear or uncertainty. Those emotions are normal and often unavoidable when pursuing meaningful goals. The difference lies in how a person responds to them. Instead of waiting for fear to disappear, a purposeful individual moves forward despite it. Each step taken in the presence of uncertainty strengthens courage. Progress, therefore, belongs to those who act, not those who wait for perfect circumstances, but those who begin where they are with the resources they have. Action turns possibility into reality step by step. It converts dreams into experiences and intentions into achievements. In the end, purpose provides direction, but action provides transformation. Without action, purpose remains an idea. With action, purpose becomes a living force that shapes the future. One of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior is the environment in which a person lives. Many people believe success depends only on personal effort or individual talent. While effort and talent are important, they do not exist in isolation. The people we spend time with, the conversations we hear, and the attitudes surrounding us all influence the direction of our thinking. Over time, these influences quietly shape our beliefs about what is possible and what is not. Human beings naturally adapt to the standards of the environment around them. If a person is surrounded by individuals who value growth, discipline, and responsibility, those qualities begin to feel normal. Effort becomes expected. Progress becomes part of everyday conversation. In such an environment, people encourage one another to aim higher and continue improving. The opposite environment creates a very different outcome. When a person spends most of their time around individuals who complain, avoid responsibility, or settle for mediocrity, those patterns slowly become familiar. Negative thinking spreads quietly through conversations. Doubt replaces confidence. Instead of discussing ideas and goals, people begin discussing limitations and excuses. Without realizing it, a person can gradually adopt these attitudes as their own. This is why environment plays such a critical role in shaping destiny. The mind absorbs the ideas it hears repeatedly. If someone hears discouraging messages every day, those messages eventually begin to influence their thinking. On the other hand, if a person regularly hears discussions about ambition, creativity, and possibility, their mind begins to search for opportunities rather than obstacles. Environment also influences habits. The behaviors that appear normal within a group quickly become the behaviors individuals follow. If the people around you spend their time learning, building, and improving, you will likely develop similar habits. But if the environment is filled with constant distraction and passivity, it becomes much harder to maintain discipline. Another powerful aspect of environment is expectation. The expectations of others often shape how individuals see themselves. When someone is surrounded by people who believe in their potential, it becomes easier for them to believe in it as well. Encouragement strengthens determination and makes challenges feel manageable. In contrast, an environment filled with criticism or pessimism can weaken confidence. Constant negativity slowly erodes belief in personal ability. Even a motivated individual can struggle to maintain momentum if they are constantly surrounded by voices that question their effort or dismiss their goals. For this reason, choosing the right environment is not a luxury but a necessity for anyone who wants to live with purpose. Sometimes this means seeking out people who share similar ambitions. It may involve joining communities focused on learning, growth, or creativity. It may also require limiting exposure to influences that consistently drain energy and motivation. Environment does not only include people, it also includes the information a person consumes each day. Books, conversations, media, and digital content all contribute to the mental atmosphere in which the mind operates. A steady stream of meaningful ideas can inspire growth, while constant exposure to negativity can weaken focus and clarity. Creating a supportive environment does not require perfection. No environment is completely free from challenges. However, a purposeful individual becomes aware of how surroundings influence their thinking. They intentionally choose influences that encourage growth rather than drift. Over time, this conscious selection of environment begins to transform behavior. The mind becomes more focused. Goals feel more attainable. Progress becomes easier to maintain because the surrounding influences support the direction a person has chosen. When the environment aligns with purpose, something powerful happens. The individual no longer fights alone against distraction and doubt. Instead, they become part of a network of ideas, habits, and expectations that all move in the same direction. In such an environment, progress becomes not only possible but natural. A purposeful life is not built through occasional inspiration but through consistent daily behavior. Many people wait for motivation before they begin working toward their goals. They believe that once they feel inspired, everything will suddenly become easier. But motivation is temporary. It appears and disappears without warning. Discipline, on the other hand, creates stability. It allows a person to continue moving forward even when enthusiasm is low. A daily system of discipline gives structure to effort. Instead of relying on emotional energy, a disciplined person relies on habits. Habits reduce the need for constant decision-making because certain actions become automatic. When productive behavior becomes routine, the mind no longer struggles with the question of whether to act. Action simply becomes part of the day. The first element of a daily discipline system is clarity. Each day should begin with a clear understanding of what matters most. Without this clarity, it becomes easy for distractions to take control of attention. A purposeful person identifies a small number of meaningful priorities and focuses their energy on those tasks. This practice protects time from being consumed by activities that do not contribute to progress. The second element is consistency. Progress is rarely the result of a single dramatic effort. Instead, it grows from repeated small actions performed over long periods of time. Writing a few pages each day eventually becomes a book. Practicing a skill for an hour each day eventually builds mastery. Consistency transforms effort into momentum, and momentum transforms effort into visible results. Another important aspect of daily discipline is managing attention. Modern life constantly competes for focus. Messages, notifications, and endless streams of information attempt to capture the mind. Without intentional control, attention becomes scattered and productivity declines. A disciplined individual protects periods of focused work where distractions are minimized. These periods of deep concentration allow meaningful progress to occur. Reflection is also a vital part of a daily system. At the end of each day, a purposeful person reviews their actions with honesty. They ask themselves whether their behavior moved them closer to their goals or whether distractions pulled them away from their intended direction. This simple reflection creates awareness and encourages improvement. Each day becomes an opportunity to adjust and grow stronger. Rest and renewal must also be included in a healthy discipline system. Continuous effort without recovery eventually leads to exhaustion. Purposeful individuals understand that rest is not a form of weakness but a necessary part of sustained performance. Sleep, reflection, and moments of quiet allow the mind to recover and prepare for future challenges. Accountability strengthens discipline as well. When individuals share their goals with others or track their progress, they create an additional layer of commitment. Accountability reminds the mind that actions matter and that promises made to oneself should be respected. Over time, this reinforces personal integrity. Daily discipline also requires patience. Meaningful achievements take time to develop. A person may not see dramatic results immediately, but consistent effort gradually builds strength, skill, and understanding. Trusting the process allows individuals to remain steady, even when progress appears slow. Perhaps the most important aspect of a daily discipline system is identity. When a person repeatedly chooses purposeful action, they begin to see themselves differently. They no longer view discipline as a struggle, but as part of who they are. This identity makes future effort easier because the mind naturally acts in ways that align with self-perception. Through daily discipline, drifting loses its influence. Instead of reacting to circumstances, a person actively shapes their time and energy. Each day becomes a step toward a larger vision. Over weeks, months, and years, these steps accumulate into meaningful transformation. There is one final truth that must be understood before a person can fully escape the habit of drifting. Time never pauses. It never slows down, and it never waits for someone to feel ready. Every day moves forward with quiet certainty. While people delay decisions or postpone their goals, the clock continues to move. Many individuals live with the comforting belief that they will eventually become serious about their lives. They imagine a future moment when motivation will suddenly appear and everything will change. They tell themselves they will start next month or next year or when circumstances improve. But this belief hides a dangerous illusion. The future is not built by intentions alone. It is built by the actions taken today. The greatest danger of drifting is that it disguises itself as harmless delay. A single day of distraction seems insignificant. A week of hesitation feels manageable. Yet those small delays slowly accumulate. Days become months and months become years. Eventually, people look back and realize that the time they believed was waiting for them has quietly disappeared. This realization often arrives too late for many individuals. They see the opportunities that once existed but can no longer be recovered. They remember the ideas they once had, the skills they wanted to develop, and the life they hoped to build. But regret cannot rebuild lost time. That is why awareness must lead to immediate change. Recognizing the danger of drifting is not enough if it does not transform behavior. A person must decide that their time matters. Each day must be treated as a valuable chance to move forward, even if progress is small. The warning is simple but powerful. A life without direction will slowly move away from its potential. No one intends to waste their future, yet drifting allows it to happen quietly. The only defense is conscious intention. When a person chooses to act with purpose today, they reclaim control of the path ahead. Your life will always move in one of two directions. Either you guide it with intention or you allow it to drift wherever circumstances push it. No one is completely free from difficulty or uncertainty, but every person still holds the power to choose how they respond. The moment you decide to live with purpose, you begin to reclaim control over your time, your energy, and your future. The difference between a drifting life and a meaningful life is not talent or luck. It is the willingness to decide who you want to become and to move toward that vision every day. Small actions repeated with commitment slowly shape a powerful destiny. Each day becomes an opportunity to build something better than the day before. Remember that your potential is not defined by your past mistakes or the obstacles around you. It is defined by the decisions you make now. Every moment you choose purpose over hesitation, you strengthen your future. Every time you act despite doubt, you become stronger than the habits that once held you back. One day, you will look back on the path you have taken. Make sure that path reflects courage, intention, and effort. Refuse to drift through the years, waiting for life to change on its own. Decide the direction of your life. Move forward with discipline and clarity. The future you build begins with the decision you make today.